Okay, welcome everyone to our next conversation in imagining a partnership for a safe and sacred now. My name is Sarah Jamil, and I am co-lead facilitator for the women and girls sector of the Charter for Compassion. And Brisha, our host for today, is also an ambassador of the women and girls sector. And before Brisha gets time to share, I will just give a brief introduction of the Charter for Compassion so everyone can get a bit familiar with us. So the Charter for Compassion has been around since 2009. And so we're in our second decade of elevating compassion and compassionate education around the world. And we're basically a network of networks. And the main goal is to, like I said, is to create an ecosystem of local to global collaborations, people all committed to making compassion the skill needed today to create a better world, a sustainable, equitable, peaceful world. So the women and girls sector is here to elevate the voices of the particular work done by and for women and girls in the world. So advancing and amplifying our voices. And so we support initiatives started by our partners, as well as create our own initiatives or platforms to have conversations such as the one today. That is mainly through webinar series. And Hyacinth is also, who's with us today, is also part of our core circle. Brisha, myself, Hyacinth are part of the, let's say, day-to-day workings of the women and girls and imagining our work being spread around the world. So welcome again. And Brisha, I'm going to let you introduce our Partnership for a Safe and Sacred Now initiative and yourself and the Women's Woven Voices project.
Great.
Please go ahead.
Wonderful. Well, I have to say I'm just completely honored and delighted to be here because the Charter for Compassion and the Women's Woven Voices are two of my heartfelt passions in my life. And so always happy to be sharing with a circle of women, which is wonderful. So the Charter for Compassion, I want to just kind of say a little bit about how I got involved about 3 years ago, and I was introduced to it from another artist who said, "Oh, you really have to know what's going on with the Charter for Compassion." And so the first thing I did was I looked up and I saw that they were really kind of looking at so many different ways to bring compassion into the world, and that they have the variety of focuses. So they had a focus on the arts, on education, on social justice, restorative justice, peace. So each of these became a sector, a focus or a sector, through religion and spirituality, science and research, environment, women and girls. So just that right there, gosh, I got a little chill. I mean, I loved the fullness of how they were trying to approach this. It was coming from every direction. So the first thing I did was I looked at the arts sector because I am an artist. And I'm actually gonna read to you right there at the top of the Charter for Compassion arts section. It says, the arts, I'm edited this a little bit. So this is from a Congresswoman Barbara Jordan. The arts are a response to our individuality and our nature. They help to shape our identity. What is there that can transcend deep difference and stubborn division? The arts. They have a wonderful universality. Art has the potential to unify. It speaks in many languages without a translator. The arts do not discriminate, and the arts lift us up. So reading that, I thought, huh, I'm home, because of course, as an artist, all of that resonated with me really deeply. And so I thought, wow, this is amazing. The other thing that I've always really been interested in is women's issues. And so I went to the women and girls sector, and I immediately fell in love. And a few years ago, so it's been about 3 years, Sarah, I think, that I've been involved. And all of that time, there's been a pull by all of us to really address violence against women. Yeah. So, there's many, many issues, and we feel like women's issues are human issues, right? And, every single one of those focuses that I said affect women, and women affect them, right? But we thought that there's just this one this focus that really needed our attention. And we noticed that, obviously we're not the only ones. We noticed that around the world, organizations, groups, women were kind of coming at it, with this philosophy of the elimination of the violence against women, or, the word violence was always in there. It was always a focus on that. And we wanted to just imagine it in a different way. I mean, we want the same goal, right? But we really wanted to imagine, what would the world be like? What is it that we want? How do we, I love what you said, imagine, come together to imagine, what is it that we would strive towards in our world for women to feel their full potential. And I want to give credit to Donna, because really Donna came up with this idea, looking at, patriarchy and domination. She said, we don't want that. That hasn't worked for women, or for really for the whole world. What we want is partnership. So partnership. And what we really want is safety. And, Psychology 101, good old Abraham Maslow had a nice pyramid of the, human needs. Does this, anybody take Psychology 101, right? And safety is just right at the very bottom, right? I mean, almost before, food and water, it's the feeling of safety. So we feel like that was the essential. So a partnership for safety. And then the next step is really just the sacred recognition of every human being and every living being on the planet, because we wanted to just be able to thrive as the divine humans that we are, come to our fullest potential. And we feel like that's a sacred task, without putting that into any particular religious box. It's just a sacred task to be your fullest self as a human being, right? And so the partnership for safe and sacred. And when do we want this? We want it now. We want to just start with every compassionate action that we take now. So the partnership for a safe and sacred now. So that's where we've landed. And there's really so much more to it, but in its simplest form, that's where we're at with the women and girls sector. And we imagine it really as an umbrella for everything, that creating a partnership for a safe and sacred now really gives us sort of an umbrella, but also a platform. It gives us a container for everything that we want to do moving forward, right? So we started out, we had a conversation about that last 2 months ago. Was it
last month? Yeah, March.
In February. Yes, in February.
February, sorry.
So I'm just sort of seating us in this. This is part of a conversation. So with all that said, what I'd like to share with you today is one of the ways that myself as an artist has brought her passion into being, and is inviting others to join her, really to be aligned with the mission of a partnership of a safe and sacred now. Okay, are you with me? Good, because I'm going to take a sip of water. Please, your tea. Take your tea.
Go ahead and do that. I'll just add to that with the partnership. What we're looking at language. We're looking at words, like how are we speaking with and to women. So this is not just a women and girls issue. That's where we're coming from. Like the last month's conversation. This is about men, inviting men into the conversation, our allies, and who are supporting us. The focus has been so much on women as victims, and then it's that energy we speak from. And so we'd like to change that to who is it we're holding accountable, and also recognizing that it's not there are some women who also, like, this is also a call to women and girls, like, who do you want to be as a human, as a woman? What do you honor? What values do you honor in yourself, and can you bring to the table? Because not all of us are doing things right. Some of us are, we all need to grow, and the same with men. So there are some who are getting it. Those are the men we want to invite to the table, and let's talk together, so that because together we can achieve what we want. So it's so the focus goes from, oh, it's happening to women, so the women should figure it out. Really? Right? It's kind of those kind of questions we've been discussing in the group. Is what haven't we done in all these years that we've been trying to fight gender-based violence or eliminating it? What is it we can do differently? So that's the thank you, Brisha. And I also wanted to acknowledge Donna Mills is my co-lead facilitator of the Women and Girls sector, and she couldn't be with us today in this session. But yes, Donna got inspired to these to speak these words, a partnership for a safe and sacred now, which we're now holding so sacred. Thank you, Brisha. Go ahead.
Thank you, Sarah. So, all right. So, as I've been a textile artist my whole adult life, I came into the art world through dance, actually. And so I've been speaking the language of art for many, many years, and worked with thousands and thousands of people, creating all kinds of collaborative projects. In 2017, I had moved from Santa Barbara, California, up to the state of Washington. And there I had an opportunity to help produce a women's festival in celebration of International Women's Day, which we just celebrated last week. Yeah, last week, March 8th. So we put together a conference and invited women to come and speak to us. And knowing the power of story, we asked these women to tell us their story. Now, we chose people who were they were inspirational, somebody who was shining brightly in the community. So they either wrote a book or started an organization, or they were doing something that we were like, oh, that's so neat. You're really out there. You're really shining your light. You're really inspiring us, and we'd love to hear more about you. So we invited them to come tell their stories. They agreed, and the conference went on. And so during the day, each speaker stood up and shared about 20 minutes about who they were, where they came from, and kind of how they got to be where they were. By the sixth speaker, it turned out that 5 out of the 6 speakers talked about being sexually abused. And the last speaker said, okay, well, this theme has really strongly come through. And to the audience of 300 women, if you've been affected, just if you've been affected by some kind of sexual abuse, and that doesn't mean that you had to have been, brutally raped. This is the whole spectrum. Would you stand up? And as 300 women basically just rose up in their seats, my whole body, I just had such a physical reaction to it. And it came at a time when, as an artist, I was really, I'm in my 60s, right? And so I've been making art for a really long time. And I've always had the theme of empowerment in my artwork. But I was like, I am really looking to do something that makes some impact beyond just, just exhibiting artwork, right? So, so as as these women stood up, and I just thought to myself, this is it. I want to do something that helps every single person in this room, take compassionate action towards changing this situation, right? So I thought about it a little bit, and I had the opportunity to go to a peace conference in Belfast right after that, and met many artists who were doing really big things. And I'll just tell you that I'm just I'm just I was in a place where I was just how you're just a mom, or I was just a gal who was making art. I didn't see myself as an international leader. I was just after meeting these artists in Belfast, I knew that I could do something that would bring the voices of many people together. And I had been working with kids for many, many years. And one of the things that we did was this simple kind of weaving. And I had used that simple kind of weaving for community events. I did something where we called attention to the Alzheimer's Association, and kids wove the 4 seasons. And so I thought, okay, this isn't that hard, right? From my juxtaposition, right? Oh, juxtaposition. From there, I know I can just take step, and this can come to fruition. So so just claiming that this was an international collaborative art project was a big step for me. And in fact, this is an international collaborative art project. So I just started to visualize, and that's where I start for everything. I just visualize. I sat down and I just wrote out 1,000 women from around the globe have had an amazing experience weaving their story cloth and sharing their story and aligning themselves together, coming together in community in a beautiful, beautiful tapestry that's being exhibited and stimulating conversation. And that's really adding one more layer of language to this compassionate movement towards a partnership for a safe and sacred now. And I have to say that it's from writing that, and when I wrote that down, there were no story cloths, not even my own. There were no story cloths. And so the first thing I did was I wove one. Then I started to invite my family and my friends, and now it's been about 3 years, and I'm sitting right now with about 300 story cloths around me. I am doing a couple of partnerships right now where I have about 400 other participants. And so we're almost up to 700 story cloths from around the globe. So at this moment, I'm going to take a sip of water, but I'm going to just give you a little whirl, because I want you to just be able to take in. I so wish you were here with me and you could just come up and look and touch and see. But I want you to kind of have a little bit of the experience or the impact of when someone were to walk into a room where hundreds of women have woven a piece of cloth that represents whatever it is they want to share about their life story. And they've submitted it to be stitched together with other women's stories to create a tapestry. Oops, let me get out of the way. A tapestry that really tells a whole different story of the creativity, the power, the creative power, the diversity, the beauty, the texture, the color, the courage, the strength, and the compassion of women in community. So you get a chance to sort of see what I'm sitting in the middle of. So Yeah, well, thank you. I'm glad. I'm glad you had some good feelings from that.
You know, as you were walking in, the silence was there. It spoke so loudly to me. It's like the story cloths speak for themselves, right? And it's so powerful.
It's incredible. Well, I hope you all have an opportunity to be in the room with it at some point besides just on Zoom. So, all right. So the project was conceived as an international collaborative art project that would support women's claiming their voice. You know, we use the word empowerment, empoweredness, but really claiming their. As a creative person, I talk about creative courage a lot and claiming your creative courage because creativity is our superpower. Human beings have the opportunity. They have I think they have the responsibility to imagine things that don't exist and then take action to bring those things into being. Yeah. And that is a superpower. We can literally manifest things that don't exist. That's creative power. And women of all beings on earth, I think, have, we are really creators. I mean, we cultivate life within us, and we are so powerful. And so, as Sarah said, we cannot do this alone. If women could change the way that women are treated around the world, we would have, right? There has to be a collaboration. It has to be a partnership, right? So, all right, so I'm getting off a little bit off, but also I'll kind of go back. So the mission really is to promote all of those things, to promote creative courage, to promote resilience, to promote healing for individual participants, for creative, to stimulate creative action. What else do we want? We want open communication, right? We want mutual respect. We want compassion. So those are all of the things that I'm trying to promote through the project in the face of, not just gender inequity, but actual, violence and abuse that happens to women around the world. Now, the World Health Organization, just put out its yearly statistics that 1 out of 3 women on the globe are in some way experiencing violence or abuse. It's so unacceptable. And I, as a part of my art activism, I put this little red fringe on the bottom of the tapestry when I stitch it together. And it's not on everyone, it's on 3 out of every 4. It's on 3 out of every 4 because I had heard a statistic that 3 out of every 4 women are in some way affected. And, I think, I think everyone is affected. There's just no doubt about it. If something happens to you, it affects me. If it happens to my daughter, if it happens to my neighbor, if it happens to, your sister, it affects me, right? So anyway, so the red fringe is kind of that call to attention. Now look at all of this incredible beauty and diversity. And, someone had told me, when I first put the red fringe on, I don't know that I think it was intuitive, but many people have said to me, oh, it looks like blood kind of dripping out of the bottom, menstrual blood, to really express our power as creative women, but also the blood from, abuse. And so, so there, there's, like I said, there's this language to it that isn't even, you don't even have to speak it, you just kind of feel it. So I had set a goal. I thought, again, back from my little place of being just, I thought 1,000 women from around the globe. I don't know, I'm thinking now 1 million women from around the globe. But anyways, 1,000 women from around the globe, right? And I imagined 2 points of impact. And as it turns out, over these couple of years, that's really played out. So the first point of impact is really for the participants. So there's 3 components to the project. The first one is self-reflection and writing. And the second one is the art of weaving. And the third one is sharing. So sharing either by sharing your story verbally, storing your story, your written story, just sharing your story cloth by having it added into the tapestry. So there's lots of different ways that we can share. I think back to this, the courage of the women who shared their stories at that first conference. One of the women at the end said that she had never talked about her experience, from the stage ever before. So the courage that she had that day, really was a total pebble in the pond, because all of this is kind of happening because of her courage, right? So the participants, so the writing. So I wanted to be able to engage you as a whole person. So I wanted to be able to engage you intellectually, and then also with the art, so kind of right brain, left brain, intellect, soul. I wanted you to be able to have an opportunity to bring your whole self, right? And I have journaled for years, and I just find writing to be a really a great way to gain perspective and insight, as is the meditative process of the weaving, which is also a really great way to connect with your intuitive wisdom. And you see your soul kind of bubbling up. A lot of people have said, I just started weaving, and then all kinds of things just started stirring in me, and insights happened while I was weaving that I was surprised by, right? Okay. So those are the three components, and not everybody writes. And I thought maybe we would look at the writing today, but I'm going to do a little bit more of an overview, and then I'll come back. So you don't have to do writing, but it's designed so that you'll have a full experience, right? So let's see, where was I going with this? Okay, so let me just go back. So the 2 points of impact. So you have the personal experience that you have as a participant, and then you have the experience that people have with the tapestry itself, right? The tapestry at this point has been exhibited at Southern California Conference on Sex Trafficking, on the Commission for the Status of Women and Girls in San Diego County, at international art conferences in Nevada and in California. It's been exhibited in Arizona. It's been exhibited in universities, at women's conferences, at schools. It's been popped up at museums. It got installed at a museum here not here, but in San Diego, 2 days before the shutdown. So it was in a museum for months. Unfortunately, nobody else was in the museum, but it was in the museum. So, and so the goal is to just continue to get it out as much as possible. Originally, I had set the big goal when I decided it was going to be this international collaborative art project. I said, I want this to be at the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women and Girls in New York. And remember who was saying this? This was like, I want to go to the moon, because I have never been involved in the commission. And although I've known other women who were, it was a big, big, big goal. And I just want to share that currently the Women's Woven Voices is in a virtual exhibit booth as a part of the NGO CSW 65 that is currently going on. It started yesterday, and because of the pandemic, the entire Commission on the Status of Women and Women conference is happening virtually. So I was able to apply for a space where the project has a page. It's an exhibit booth. And 25,000 participants in the forum are welcomed and encouraged to go and visit there. So I'm thrilled. Just as we're sitting here, there's people who are accessing the project through the commission forum. It's pretty exciting for me.
Congratulations on that. That's fantastic.
Thank you. All right, so who's participated? So I started out with just dropping that little pebble in the pond, and my family participated, my friends participated. And then as I went to each one of these conferences, inviting more and more people to participate, and sharing and spreading the mission around the world. So currently there's story cloths from across the United States, Canada, Australia, Bulgaria, Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan. And currently there are partners who are working with me in France and Germany, and in New Zealand. And so I'm looking for partners in England. So we're trying to get Hyacinth on board here to maybe get some people to participate, so I can get those voices from England into the tapestry as well. Right. So what else was I saying? Oh, so I also just wanted to share that I've been really reaching out to. One of my goals was really to reach out to young girls, because I feel like self-reflection and really focusing on your strengths is really one way to start building up that claiming their creative courage. And so I've reached out to the Girl Scouts and to Girls Incorporated, which is a girls organization here in California. I'm not sure if that's national. I don't know, is that National Girls Week? Yeah. And I've just connected actually through the CSW with somebody who does Girls Brigade in Scotland and Wales, I think, which I think is a Girl Scout type thing. Is that right, Hyacinth? Sort of a thing, yeah. And so I'm very excited about that. And I've also partnered right now with the Front Porch Gallery or the Front Porch, organization that has 10 different senior communities. And so they have actually taken this on as their art project. It's 10 different independent living, assisted living, and memory care communities. So the residents, their families, and their caregivers are all participating in the project. And we will be displaying the story cloths that they weave at a gallery in November. And there's about 400 people who are participating in that collaboration. So we're trying to connect with everyone. My goal really is to continue to reach out to more marginalized communities, because because I wanted to include everyone's voice. So I connected with somebody who was doing a program for women who had been incarcerated and were trying to work their way back into life after incarceration. And I've also contacted a couple of different First Nation and Indigenous tribal leaders to see if I can do that. So I haven't been able to connect with those, but if anybody has any connections or any ideas, I would love to connect with anybody in any community that you think would benefit or would want to add their voice to the tapestry. I think at this point, while I take a sip of water, just unmute if you have any questions or any comments. I'd love to hear from you.
Well, we've had great just insights shared or in note form as well in the chat. So it's very inspiring. But yeah, please do. I had one question, Brisha, when you are presenting the work. So how are you weaving the compassion into it? Like, how are you presenting this opportunity to share our story? I guess I'm trying to, where does compassion come in?
Yeah, well, maybe, as always, Sarah, we know that compassion starts with ourselves, right? So part of writing and self-reflection has to do with bringing that compassion to yourself. And on the website for Women's Woven Voices, I have each step of the project, there's resources, and so you can go there and you can listen to a meditation to kind of set the mood for your writing, and then I have writing prompts. And I would love to do this. I want to hear from anybody else who has anything to share or say, or questions, and then maybe we can do some of the writing prompts. Sarah, what do you think? Yeah. Okay.
I think that's a good idea. Please go ahead.
All
The
right.
floor is everyone's. I'll just put it on so we
Yeah,
can
just
see
unmute
everyone.
yourself, and
There you go.
I'd just love to hear from you.
I just found this incredibly moving. This was very, just, I honestly, I got a little not stuck, but just I really was attracted to the story about just because how many of us do that? And then you kind of fumbled on the word and like, oh, juxtaposition. And I like looked it up because I'm like that is literally, so the definition, in case you don't know, because I needed to refresh, the fact of two things being seen or placed close together with contrasting effect. Oh my gosh. Like, I just thought that was so amazing. Like what you've created. It's like,
Wow.
oh, you know? So that was incredible to me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That was really like, I just sort of stumbled out.
So yeah, keep that in your story.
No mistakes, right?
Right. Yeah. No,
Fun.
it's beautiful what you're doing. It can definitely see how huge this can become and impactful. More importantly, impactful. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Of all the faces that I see, has anybody participated? Has anybody done it? I know Sarah has. Anybody else that's here? Okay, good. Well, I just thought I'd ask. We'll have Sarah share hers maybe in a little bit. Okay, anybody else have anything else they want to? Marjorie, we kind of went around and said where we were from, but would you like to just say where you're calling in from or where you're sitting right now?
I am sitting in Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
Where there are a lot of assisted living and nursing homes. And I'm thinking the much maligned workers there must also be able to anticipate a benefit, their own creative courage. Just imagine here, have you thought about the people who have sat with the dying instead of when it really should have been family? Just how much unweaving or reweaving of the trauma that these story cloths represent, and the beauty that's possible in what you thought could only be tragic.
Yeah.
Incredible.
That's incredible. Well, I'll invite you all to help me get that going. You know, I love that you said the weaving and the reweaving, and it's, you know, you don't even have to. I don't know. I don't even. You have to call attention to the metaphoric, you know, the way we use the terms of weaving in our life and the interconnection. You know, it is so powerful. And you know, we know that our soul really responds to art and metaphor and symbol, and you know, there's just something really powerful at work here, I think. Good. And then there's Anastasia. Do you want to say hello, since we're such a small group?
Hi. Hold on. I'm sorry. I just joined. I apologize. I was running late, and so I thought, oh, maybe I won't even be able to get in. But then I got let in. So, hi everyone. I apologize for my lateness. I'd like to say it wasn't my MO, but right now it is. So I don't actually know what the original question was, other than.
No, I just where you are in the world.
Oh, I'm in Oakland, California, in my home with my son and my partner, and that's pretty much where I've been for the last year. You know, again, grateful for the pieces that I have in that regard, and yeah, so I'm grateful to be here and looking forward to the learning.
Great.
I have a question. Did you say that, so are those strips, the story cloths, are they strips? And did you say that you then weave them together?
I stitch them together. So yeah, so each one is an individual strip like this, right?
Okay.
So here, let me share. All right. So I give away a little free loom kit. And people hear loom. It's a bag with some string, some straws, and some beads. And this ingenious little weaving apparatus, is something that I came up with. Well, I didn't come up with it. It's been around for years, but I used it with children for many, many years. And so you put the string through the beads so that they can just be held into the straws, and then the straws are what kind of holds it all together so that you can weave the yarn or fabric or plastic or leather or hair or string or ribbon.
Risha, do you want to bring it up? Sorry, I just put it on so we can see closer there.
So this is literally how you do it.
I think I could do that.
I know, it's like my first thing when I first got this a couple of years ago. I was like, okay, so I'm not creative, but it's so simple, and that's what I love.
I heard loom and I'm like, ah.
Yeah, on the website are 3 videos of me. Hi, this is how you put this together, and it's like 2 minutes, and it's so simple, and thousands of people have done it, and people have given me feedback. Most recently, a 93-year-old woman came onto a call with me, and she said, oh my gosh, I watched you on your videos, and it was so easy, and I just did it. So I feel like that's a good endorsement. Sarah, do you want to share yours now, the one that you're working on right now?
Sure. Yeah, I have this one. So I'm in Toronto, so I received my first kit at the Parliament of World Religions. Brisha had sent some up to Toronto, and so I did that, and after that I got inspired to do more. So I created my own, got some supplies, and so this is one that it's quite long, but I'm almost thinking it's like a scarf. But, yeah, and then I'm actually done, I think. Now I filled it to I can push it down a bit more, I think, but I used just 2 colors. This time was more focused on the texture and how I felt weaving. It was more a meditative exercise for me while I was thinking and contemplating. So what did you say, Brisha?
I was going to ask you you just explained what it was I was going to ask you.
Oh.
And
Okay.
Sarah has one that's woven into the tapestry here. I don't know where it is at the moment, but Sarah did send in one for the tapestry already. But that's a good point. So let's just talk about that for a minute. There is no one way that you can do it. And people say, oh, weave your story. Well, obviously this is not a representative thing, right? This is an abstract art. And when you look at it, you can't tell any of those people's stories, although I can tell you some of these stories. Some people use the writing prompts, which I'm going to share in a few minutes, and write out stuff, and then they choose colors to represent their greatest successes, their biggest challenges, the people who support them, all of these different things, and then they weave. And so this color might represent one thing, and this represents another thing. So I've had the opportunity I was at a conference in Sacramento a year and a half ago, and a woman who had attended the same event that Sarah was at in Toronto and had gotten one of the kits, had woven her story cloth and sent it to me. I didn't know who she was. I didn't know any of that backstory. I stitched it into the tapestry. And then I was at a visionary summit and was displaying the tapestry. And she came into the room and she walked over and she said, oh, this one is mine. And I said, oh my gosh, tell me. And she said, well, I went to this United Religious Initiative conference up in Toronto, Canada, and I got the kit, And then I wove it and I sent it to you. And so she stood and she told me, each color, like this represents this and this represents that and this represents that. I've had other people just choose colors that they really love, sit down, start weaving. And, as they're weaving, they're just kind of allowing stuff to come up. And a lot of times they'll say at the end, oh my gosh, I had these insights. One particular woman, an 85-year-old woman, just did that. She said, I'm not going to write anything, I'm just going to weave. So she wove her story cloth. And I happen to know that this woman had been in an abusive relationship. And so she said, when I was weaving, I started thinking about my life. And she said, I started kind of like shifting, like I used to think that there was good things and bad things. But now I kind of think of it as more like ups and downs and ins and outs, which is kind of the weaving. And she said, when I finished the weaving, I thought to myself, I'm a strong woman, 85 years old. And she said, Brisha, I have never thought that before. And I'll tell you, I was just said, okay, that's it. That's, I've accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. If one 85-year-old woman who'd been smacked around by her husband can say, after thinking about her life, wow, I feel strong, then, I feel like it's a good thing. So, but I didn't stop there. I kept on going. And I could share a couple of little stories. And before we do a little writing activity, I happen to have, so this little panel right here is, the entire panel was done by women who are refugees from Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan. And although they are currently living in El Cajon, California, I do say that those story cloths are from those countries, because they were very, very new to this country, and they were really representing their stories from their homeland. This group of women shared in a sacred confidential circle some of the traumatic things that they had gone through, and that their families were still going through, that they were able to get out, but they still had brothers and uncles and family who were experiencing incredible violence. Overall, their whole demeanor was so powerfully positive. They were so grateful to have an opportunity to provide a different life for their children. And we actually gathered, they all wove, and I put the panel together, and then all of their kids went to the same school in El Cajon, which focuses on refugee families. So there's there's a lot of language help, and then they have help for the parents. They call it Parent University, to help them with language. So they're trying to learn a new language, they're trying to learn a new culture, they're trying to assimilate. And they only have a specific amount of time to do that in before the support that they get is up. So anyways, it was just incredible. We spent an entire day together sharing stories, and they cooked for us, and they just told us a lot about their life, but they were so excited to share their stories. And each one of them, just said profound things. One person in particular said, when I finished my story cloth, I looked at it and I thought, this, she knows all of the challenges and successes that were in it. And she said, this is so beautiful. And then when I came today and I saw it stitched together with all of the other women, and she started to cry. I might start to cry a little bit. She just said, oh my God, I didn't think it could be more beautiful. But seeing it stitched together, with my sisters here, it was so beautiful. So, anyways, so that's very impactful. I can tell a few more stories, because that's really what it's all about, really. There's a little section here, and each one of these has a tag on it. And this tag says, this tapestry was made with love by a Team Brooke member and dedicated to the memory of Brooke Powers Wilson. So I was at a group and I was sharing the project, and a woman there had very recently lost her 22-year-old daughter to cancer. And so she invited a dozen of her friends to reflect on their lives and to weave their story cloths and to submit it into the project in honor of her daughter. Now, this was not, this wasn't something that, came from me in any way, shape, or form. But oh my gosh, just the honor of stitching each one of those cloths together to honor Brooke's memory and for the healing of her mom, and that her mom asked her friends, and they gathered together and shared their stories as a healing process. So again, that just really touches my heart. Let's see.
Brisha, can you also talk about the some people have chosen to attach
Yes.
some memorable, that would be beautiful.
Yeah, I didn't really mention that, but when you go on the website and you talk about the weaving, it talks about how to set it up, how to weave it, how to finish it, and then I just invite people to add anything that kind of helps tell their story, and you can just see that people have not held back. They have put on all different kinds of things. So this one, she's put on, I think these are all her children and her grandchildren, or she spelled their names out with those little beads that have letters on them. I love teaching, little P, butterflies. A lot of people add little pieces of jewelry, natural things. There's a lot of seashells, and there's a little Eiffel Tower, and anything you want. Here's a little plastic frog. So I mean, there's so many things, that one of the reasons that I have to stitch them together in panels is, for one, I have to store them, and then two, they get very, very heavy because not only is the yarn heavy, but also you add on all of the doodads, they just get really, really heavy. So I was just going to share one more story, and I don't know if I can actually roll the computer over close enough to show you this one. Oh, let me try. So one of my friends wove this story cloth, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful story. So let's see if I can hold this up for you. Can you see this one right here that has a lot of brown in it? Okay. All right. So this woman shared with me that, when she came to the project, a lot of the challenges in her life started bubbling up. And so she chose this brown color because brown, she said, when she and her brother were kids, they used to say that when bad things happened, it was caca. So that was it. It was the caca of life. So she started out, she put a little bit of her brown, and this represents her family. And they had some challenges, and the pink represented their happiness. It wasn't all bad. And then her mother died when she was very young. So more brown. But then next to that, she has hope with a little bit of pink. She goes on to share that she was divorced, and then her creativity and her art buoyed her up. She survived cancer. Her art and her creativity buoyed her up. She had a relapse of cancer, more art and creativity, more challenges, and then all the way up to the top where there's pink and some little angel wings. I don't know if you can see the angel wings up at the top. So when she said, when I finished, I realized that after every challenge, I was able to, find hope and keep going, and I was resilient. And then she said, oh my gosh, when I finished, I realized that what I had woven, all of those areas of brown, were the compost for some of the best things that happened for me in my life. And again, this was just by doing, I mean, you could write that all out, maybe have that insight, but it was by actually making the art piece, by actually weaving that brown yarn and doing all of it, that she kind of had this insight, and I'm sure, I mean, she's known that she was resilient and that she was coming back, but it was a really beautiful story. I thought that she said, this was a thank you for the opportunity for me to really think about how the challenges in my life have helped me to grow into the person that I am. So, so I like to share that story. That's a really nice one. All right. Well, would you all like to take a moment to just maybe do a little writing, and if not writing, at least reflecting? I have
Yes.
a couple of writing prompts. Do we want to take a minute to get to grab a pen and some paper, or do you have?
Yeah, we could do that. You have just, Brisha, we have half an hour,
Okay.
so we have good time to do some of this, like try a few of the aspects. I'd love to do
All right.
that.
Well, how about this? I mean, all right. Why don't I, so I have 11 writing prompts, which is really way too much, but I was trying to just put in there anything that would stimulate you. But one of my favorite questions is really, when did you feel the greatest wholeness? And then the companion question for that is what experiences made you feel the most empowered? Why don't we just take a couple minutes?
What was the first one, Brisha?
First one is, when did you feel the greatest wholeness? And what experiences made you feel the most empowered? So either one of those. While you're doing that, I'm gonna just take it. Maybe just one more minute. All right. I do want to say that on the website for Women's Woven Voices, there's a form where you can actually literally write it right there and submit it on the website. People also write them out and mail them to me with their story cloths. Of course, I ask, do I have permission to share any part of this story or share this story? And you can say yes or no. People have sent me their stories and said no, they didn't want it shared in any way. So I just offer my safe space, so that someone can have the experience of writing it out and actually the courage to send it to someone. And I hold that completely sacred, and that does not get shared. And people who say they would be happy to have their comments shared. Sometimes I share things in the newsletter. I share that when I'm exhibiting, and I am looking to create a book about the experience of the Women's Will and Voices. So, stories can also be shared there. So just so you know, like, people always ask me, well, what are you doing with the stories? Honestly, the main intention was for you, was for the participant to do self-reflection and to be engaged wholly with art and writing, with left and right brain, and just all, body, soul, but there is, but the life after you've written it out is an important thing too. So, all right, well, does anybody want to share? I'd like to just invoke a sacred space for us to share. Feel free to just unmute, you guys, and no, you don't have to, but if anybody would like to.
I'm not sure I want to share my writing, but just to say that I'm really excited about the process as you described, the kind of the weaving and then the journaling as well, the writing prompts as well. It's something I've explored quite recently, but just that space that it creates by having that meditative process, as Sarah described it, and what it might unlock, but just the pureness of being in the space with
6:30
at the time.
6.
Yeah. So I think
6 and between 6 and 6:45.
Greg, you're not muted. Are you speaking with us? Okay. All right. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. It happens on Zoom, doesn't it? So I feel the space. Yeah. I think I've run out of words, but thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
I'd be happy.
Oh,
okay.
Go on, Anastasia, you go first.
Okay, well, thank you. It's really interesting. I don't know if it's just because I'm tired and things are crazy all over the world, but when you asked the question, when did you feel the greatest wholeness? I was so grateful because what came to me was this moment, and a very specific moment, when my baby was about 3 weeks old, maybe, if that. And I was sitting in the backyard of my home with my partner and the baby and all of my beloved friends who had been witness to my birth. And it was a very scary birth, in that I was going for a home birth and I ended up with a belly birth, or C-section. But I remember thinking, oh my God, I can probably do anything I set my mind to, short of stopping breathing and make it through to the other side. And so I had forgotten that. I have forgotten that. So just that prompt just then was such a reminder of capacity and resilience and possibility. And oh yeah, that's right. I'm actually a whole human in the midst of all this hard work of life and love and living. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
It is actually.
For receiving
I was
it.
going to say, and I'm glad you started first, because you started with the first question, and what I was going to respond with was actually the second question anyway. I actually put down when did you feel most empowered? When, as a 16-year-old, myself and my mum and my siblings left our family home to go into a women's refuge, actually. So I just love the way the kind of stories are. I think it's so vital for everyone, but I just think, my gosh, that would have been so good for children, because at that age you're just kind of going into being a young woman. But I think even though the circumstances were really quite I think sad now, my gosh, we were so empowered. Felt so empowered, and I know my mum started to feel so empowered because it was finally meant there was a choice, and also there was a level of freedom, and there was a way of starting again, and yeah, just not being terrorized. I think as a child we was kind of terrorized in the house, and I just think, my God, and I feel like that's what's made me really start stepping into being empowered. It was a long journey. I had to go through bits of therapy, but stepping to be empowered, and then helping women to empower themselves regardless of anything. So whether it's violence or not violence, whether it's just that you're fed up at your career, all of that stuff, just knowing that we have choices in any circumstances, actually. So thanks for that question, Brisha. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, guys.
I'll share. So when I felt the most empowered was after a difficult breakup with somebody that I was married to at the time. It was actually a second difficult marriage. And I had gone to court for a restraining order, and the judge did not grant it for me. And all I wanted was to feel safe, right? And at the same time, I was an educator, a speech language therapist in schools, and I had students coming to me for help for bullying. And that's when my light went on. It's like, and that became, it's actually how I first found the charter back in the day when it first started, is when I first started what was my former organization, Caring and Courageous Kids. And so I felt very empowered learning about bullying and how to prevent it with children. I never wanted them to feel like they didn't have somebody they could go to for help and be turned away, which is what was happening. On the playground, teachers say, just go play, when they really needed that help. So I never wanted anybody to feel like I did in court that day. And so that was kind of the beginning of my new life, my new journey, and where I am today. So just, it felt good teaching children compassion for helping children who needed help, but who might be afraid to use their voice to help and speak out, having compassion for the person who is bullying. I don't call them a bully, because when they're children, they need guidance, right? And they probably have challenges in their own life. So that was the start of that whole journey. And yeah, that was the start of it. My work has turned into Mindful Kindful University, which is about teaching the skills to be mindful, kindful, compassionate, and peaceful. So I'm very proud of that. I'm just always learning. I'm still working through my old traumas, but it's just, I'm very moved by everybody's stories, and I love the whole weaving together, because I've often tried to do things on my own, and I'm coming to a point in my life where I want to be surrounded by others. I'm ready to trust again.
Thank you, Dee. Well, I feel so blessed by this circle of women today. I feel sort of complete. I mean, I feel like does anybody have any other questions about the project, I guess the end is really to just invite you, one, to continue to envision a world that has a partnership for a safe and sacred now, and to think of whatever it is that you are doing that can, move us forward towards our sacred potential for everyone. And if you would feel so interested, I would love to have you add your voice to the tapestry. The website is www.womenswovenvoices.com. You can order a free loom kit, which is just the little bag with the straws and the things. You provide your own weaving materials, but then on the website are the tutorial videos and the writing prompts and the meditation, and there are resources, and it's a gallery. There's a whole thing. There's a whole bunch of stuff there. And if anybody has anything else that they either want to ask or share, we'll do that now.
I just wanted to make sure that the first part of the video would be available, because I missed the story of origin, and I don't want to, have everybody else have to listen to that again. But I feel like that's really important for me in my work. And I just would like to name that like I said, I probably wasn't going to come because I'm tapped out, my friends. I am tapped out. And so this was such good medicine. It reminded me why I keep showing up, even when I'm like, why bother? It's then I take that one more breath. And so grateful. And definitely I work with college age students, so this will be a really delightful opportunity for them to sort of look back and move forward, and I'll hope to stay connected. So thank you so much.
Actually, I discovered that, I didn't realize this, but I guess in universities, they have, in April, it's Sexual Assault and Awareness Month. And I actually went to the University of San Diego and did a group with 40 students there, and which was very well, it was well received and very meaningful and very impactful. And so it's a great thing to share with college age, and anoint them as pebbles in the pond too. Just send them out to share as well.
I think one thing that moves me up. Sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
No, go ahead, Archery. I'll do it after.
One thing that moves me about the story cloths, and they're weaving all around the world now, is your intention and discovery of the power of creation that's already in us. And it feels like a literal, physical, beautiful, colorful antidote to everything so much in our systems that want us to believe that we are not creatives, or that our creative impulses are for the weekend.
Right.
And to hear Anastasia, is that how you say your name? Anastasia? Not really, but you're not telling me what it is.
It's Anastasia, but you can call
Anastasia.
me Steph.
Anastasia. To hear you talk about being tapped out makes me wonder how much just having the straws and the beads and the yarn right there by our Zoom screen, or right there away from the Zoom screen, just to have it as not therapy. This is not about fixing. It's about reconnecting to our soul source, where tapped out becomes I just love this idea that tapped out becomes irrelevant. Like it's not even possible anymore because we're so tapped in to what the story cloths teach us, our co-creative superpower. Thank you for bringing the beauty to us.
Thank you. That was a beautiful way of putting it. And Sarah, I know you had something to say, or because
yeah, no, just what I'm learning every time I hear you speak is, and showing the story, the tapestry, is how intergenerational this project actually is.
yes,
And so it's not just focused on, like, it went from the beginning of, you know, women who have experienced some form of violence or abuse, but when you said, well, we're all interconnected and we all get affected by it, so it's just become our story, right? A collective story, and just a very good and strong visual of what interconnectedness means and looks like. That to me is like, you know, it's, you know, let's go to the seniors, let's go to our grandmothers, let's include our daughters in the whole weaving process, and let them feel their voice is important right now. Not, I'm gonna wait till you become the future leader. Like for my daughters, that's like, it's now or never, almost. There's no waiting, and that's why I just see so much potential with this. So really, again, thank you, Risha, for midwifing it.
thank you, Sarah. That's perfect. I really feel like that is my role, is to midwife it. And it, just wanted to respond to a couple of different things that just popped up while, and one was just that, yeah, you know, this isn't therapy, and I do have some resources on my website for people who need that kind of help. And I've had women respond to it. I can't do this. I can't relive that, the experiences that I had, which I honor and respect completely. You know, their work is somewhere else. But, and, excuse me, not but, and it is a tool for continued healing, and for, you know, for tapping into, I just love the way that you said that, Audrey, tapping into your, you know, your soul source. And I also wanted to say that, you know, it's women's woven voices, of course. And from the very beginning, you know, people said, can men weave a story cloth? Yes, of course, men could weave a story cloth. And then after the first year and a half or 2 years, I actually kind of started to put out a call and say, you know what, this project, I'm calling for compassionate men. I'm calling for allies to add their voice. I'm calling for women to invite the men in their lives that can add to this energy, you know, to weave. And it's really that, you know, it's really kind of just rolling out sort of slowly. But I just wanted to say that as long as, you know, their focus is on, you know, the promotion of the creativity, compassion, diversity, and healing and resilience and strength and courage of women, then, you know, everybody can add their voice. And Sarah, you're so right. I mean, this story that's behind me has grandmothers, mothers, daughters, sisters, nieces, aunts, you know, every relation. And each time I hold a story cloth in my hand to stitch to the other one, I, you know, just offer a blessing. And it's such an honor for me to put it together. And as you know, as you said, it has evolved. In the very beginning, I had, you know, people comment to me, I don't want to focus on being a victim. Oh, you know, women have all kinds of issues. So, you know, so you were sexually abused. Well, my husband just died, you know? And I was like, oh yes, you know, and those stories are, every one of those aspects. I mean, people are weaving about, you know, births and deaths and divorces and graduations and completions and losses and, you know, all of it. It's all a part of our collective story. And it's also a part of our collective strength, right? It's a part of our collective the more that we own each one of those parts of our story, the more we claim our creative courage and our creative power. And so I'm hoping that that's what is reflected in the project. So. Yeah, Dee.
I just wanted to add that I appreciate the invitation for all genders, because I do think they are an important piece of the story. And, not only for your work, but the Safe and Sacred Now movement. And, in the beginning of my evolution of my programs was, sure, I would love to help girls, right? Because I work with children. And, that would be, I wanted to help girls like me who didn't know what to say or do growing up. And yet I have boys, I have children, my children are boys. So it's like, why would I not want to help my boys learn and model ways for them as well? Of course, they're men now, but my point is to it's not just about women. It is about everybody's part of the story. So I appreciate the looking at that and inviting that. Just wanted to add that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That was very, very important. I want to kind of, in closing, bring it back to Donna Mills, our co-facilitator of the women and girls sector, and the words that she uses. I love the phrase she's coined, but what we're doing is we're exploring a narrative of how to human well. And that really comes at the core of, this initiative that we're exploring. We're co-creating, we're imagining, whatever words we want to use, but this is what we want to midwife, is how do we human well? Let's have this collective conversation. Yes, we need our respective sacred spaces for, respecting our our genders. Like we want that space. We want something like this as well, honoring, our sacredness, but we most definitely want to now start joining hands. And it is, so we can't just be talking. And that's why bringing in the creative element with, for example, Brisha's project, other amazing projects that we also see, let's start, leaning into those and then see what comes. It's about trust, like Dee, you were saying before. Trust is the point we have to get to. We all have to feel trust, safety, and respected and seen as the whole people that we are. And then we will automatically want to express ourselves and show our light, right? It's that we want that possibility. And we have to have people holding that vision for it to start somewhere, right? We're not just talking about some ideal that's not achievable. We know it's achievable because all of us through our stories have reached that point in our lives that we discover we have a choice. And that's the opening, right? When you show someone or you yourself discover, hey, hang on a minute, I do have a choice here. And you find the support around you. That's when that empoweredness just, no one can stop you. It's not easy, but it's the start. And that's it. It starts with that choice. So thank you so much. Brisha, do you want to do the final words? And if anyone else, of course, wants to share.
I just thought maybe we would let people know what's to come with the Women and Girls sector. We started the conversation about the partnership for the Safe and Sacred Now. And then would you like to share what we have going next? Coming up in May, we have a conversation around specifically. I think you could do it very well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no. So as I was saying, so the way we've envisioned this this year is we wanted to start, like we started last month with an open conversation of, okay, what does this mean? A partnership for a safe and sacred now, and then see where it would go. Then we wanted, following that, a deep down creative space like this one today, and to like dive a bit deeper for those of us who were interested in doing that. And then so we did that for this first section. Next session will be in May, and we'll focus on the word partnership. And we're inviting people into that conversation with that intention on focusing on what does partnership look like, mean to you? What can we envision it being? Is it a new concept? Is it an old, that kind of thing? And we will be inviting, if you know someone as well, or you yourselves, we will inviting people who are working within this field of imagining or promoting, advocating for partnerships. We will bring some panel guests to speak. It will be a webinar format, and it's Wednesday, May 18th, I believe, or 19th. I forgot what that Wednesday is. I think it's the 19th. I've been saying 18th in the comments. I think it's May 19th. If someone can quickly, you'll get that right, but that's it. I know it's right after my Ramadan, so it's the week after, and it will be another morning session. I believe it will be recorded, and yes, please feel free to continue exploring with us. That's what it is. We don't have the answer, and that's why we wanted to, let's start having that. We want to imagine it, and so thank you. It's May 19th. It's been confirmed. And you can see all the updates on our website for women and girls. So charterforcompassion.org/PSSN. So thank you, everybody. Did I miss something, Brisha?
Oh, I think that's, I just have to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. This was such a beautiful gathering, and I feel so blessed by all that you shared. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much, and be safe, everyone, and stay blessed. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.